Hello. It is Sunday, December 31st, and I have a lot of books to wrap up. I read a lot of books this past week because, last week of the year, the, school is out the entire week. But before I share this, I do want to share my reading stats for the year because I realized I didn't put it anywhere. I'm not doing my top 19 to 2023 on video. I did put that on my blog. By the time this is posted, several years ago probably. But these are my reading stats for 2023. I'll put up pictures. So in total, in 2023, I read 137,716 pages. My average rating was about a 3.83. Out of the gender breakdown, I read 2 books by non-binary authors, which turned into 0%. 289 books by male authors, or 61%, and 214 books by female authors, or 45%. In terms of the breakdown between age range, I read 179 adult books, so that's 38%, 16 new adult books, or 3%, 177 young adult books, or 37%, 42 middle grade novels, or 9%, and 62 children's books, or 13%. In terms of reread versus new read, 137 of the books I read were rereads, so it's 29%, and 338 books were new reads, or 71%. In terms of, there's a lot here, format, I read 226 paperbacks, so 47%, 113 hardcovers, so 24%, 10 ARCs, so 2%, 1 zine, so 0%, 27 on Kindle, so 6%, and 99 mass market paperbacks, so 21%. In terms of nationality, I have a lot where I have read just one book by, so like, in the books, the ones that I've got less than 10 by at Norwegian, Vietnamese, Afghan, Greek, Filipino, Korean, Indian, Irish, Polish, Chinese, Canadian. For some reason, I only read 4 books by Canadians, I guess. I don't know. Welsh. I did split up. I read 5 books by Native American authors, 3 by Blackfoot authors. By that, I mean Stephen Graham Jones, and 2 by Chippewa authors. 4 books by the French, mostly Emile Zola. 1 Portuguese, 2 Russian, 4 Swedish. It's Frederick Bachman. 2 Romanian, and 4 Australian. And then the big ones are 334 books by Americans, so a full 70%. 59 by Japanese people, that's mostly manga, not all manga, so 12%, and 44 by the British, so 9%. The genres. Again, I've got some where I've only got a couple. So I read 1 occult book, 1 apocalypse fiction, 1 magical realism, 1 mystery, 1 comic, 2 picture books, 1 art, 113 horror, so that's 24% horror was my biggest genre, it always is. 9 short story collections, 5 romances, 10 graphic novels, 1 isekai, 8 eroticas, 2 plays, 14 classics, 5 literary fictions, 5 paranormal, 5 gothic, 11 poetry, 2 dark academia, 54 mangas, so that's 11%, 63 fantasy, so it's 13%, 33 nonfiction, 7%, 11 sci-fis, 2%, 58 contemporaries, 12%, 5 survival, 25 thrillers, 17 historical fiction, and 11 dystopians. And now the year breakdown. So overall, I don't know if I have said, I read 477 books this year. If the maths don't math right, that's because I messed up somewhere. This is just me in an Excel spreadsheet. That's what this is. So I read 1 book from BC, before the Common Era, and it was the Iliad. That's what it was. I read 1 book from the 1500s, pretty sure it was a Shakespeare play, 1 book from the 1700s, 7 from the 1800s, 2 from the 1900s, 3 from the 1930s, 7 from the 1950s, 6 from the 1960s, 17 from the 1970s, 39 from the 1980s, 52 from the 1990s, 93 from the 2000s. I did start putting the 2000s into one box rather than splitting up all the years. Once you get to 2010, they'll always split it up by year. So I read 8 books published in 2010, 11 from 2011, 9 from 2012, 8 from 2013, 20 from 2014, 19 from 2015, 27 from 2016, 18 from 2017, 16 from 2018, 19 from 2019, 34 from 2020, 18 from 2021, 19 from 2022, and 19 from 2023. So I was over my goal by 4. Because my goal was 473. And let's talk about the books I read last week, because there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 of them. First up, I reread City of Lost Souls by Cassandra Clare. I think I've only read this book once. I think I read it like right when it came out and I never touched it again. This is the 5th book in the Mortal Instrument series. I read this series as like a teenager. This was a big teenage series for me. And this one, it's okay. It's okay. I read Lady Midnight like right before I read this one, and I was just like, it's okay. We do have some Blackthorns in here, which is kind of interesting. But it's okay. 4 out of 5 stars. You don't need me to talk to you about Mortal Instruments. After that, I did read that was kind of a disappointment. It was 172 Hours on the Moon by Johan Harstad. And this book was like, I remember when this book was huge, it was everywhere, and I was really interested in it. It is a space horror. It's about this contest where I think like three kids go up to the moon to live there. It's a big PR thing. It's like drawn random lottery, but there's something up there and it's killing them. And here's the thing, like every character in here was so goddamn, everything in here was stereotypical. I think this is one of my Swedish authors. No, it's my Norwegian author. That's who it is. And like there's a French guy, there's a Norwegian girl, and then there's a Japanese girl. And the French guy is this Romeo. He's lost his love, and he's just so tragic and romantic, and he speaks with a heavy French accent. And the Japanese girl is like a Harajuku, like, kind of girl. And then I guess I don't know about Norwegian stereotypes, but everything was stereotypical. The writing wasn't that good. It was real choppy, and it was super cheesy. I did appreciate the balls it took to do that ending. I appreciated that, but overall, I think I gave this 1.5. Oh, I gave it 2. I gave it 2 stars. I'm pretty sure it was just for the ending. After that, I had a reread. Oh, don't fall. And I read Chainletter by Christopher Pike. And so the first time I read this, I was riding the high of Chainletter 2, because I read Chainletter 2 first, when I was like 7. And I just loved how just balls to the wall gory it was. It was so fun. This book is a lot quieter, and it's a lot sadder. And Neil and Tony, they make me so sad. And Neil, and it makes me so sad. This is a good fucking book. Like, Christopher Pike really hit it out of the park with this one. And in retrospect, I do love how crazy Chainletter 2 is. But Chainletter 2 is so, like, we got like satanic cults and stuff like that, and it's fun. It's super fun. But this one just feels so quiet and homey and just sad. It's really good. I'm not gonna, it's so good. I give it 5 out of 5 stars. After that, I read another point horror. That's what I do. And that was Be Mine by Jane McFan. And so this book follows this girl, Bethany, and she is best friends with this guy named Starling. And they're like kind of dating, kind of not. Like, they're not like official, but they do make out all the time. And they do clearly like each other. But the thing is that Jane has been getting, like, she's got a secret admirer, so she's getting like hearts on her window and her lockers and stuff like that. And she doesn't really think much of it. She's like, oh, somebody's noticed me. But other people are like, this is kind of freaky. It really does a lot of build up, and we do a lot of like character work in here. Like, I really like Bethany and Starling as characters. I do think that they would be an adorable rom-com couple. Unfortunately, Bethany does get kidnapped. But no, I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I think if you see this one in your local Goodwill, pick it up. After that, I stepped out of my comfort zone a little bit. I read Neon Gods by Katie Robert. This is the first book in this like retelling series with like the Greek gods, and they're erotica novels. That's what they are. But this is a retelling of the Hades and Persephone myth. The world building was real shaky, but I think Roberts knew that we're not there for the world building. I liked it. I own the second book. I intend on finishing the series. I think the writing wasn't terrible. A lot of times with these romance books, the writing is terrible, and it is very typical writing for the romance genre that it is in, but it's not terrible. I liked the characters. I think the reviewers are correct though when they say like Hades is not like this dark brooding guy. He is very much very nice from the get-go. Like, there's no thawing of his heart. His heart is already like squishy. But no, I give it 4 out of 5 stars. I think it's not that bad. After that, I read a couple manga. Neither of them are in series that I care that much about, so I'm not going to talk that much about them. I've got Pretty Face Volume 3. Pretty Face is a series about this like judo expert, and he was in a terrible bus crash, and they found a photo of the girl that he liked in his wallet, and so they decide to like revamp his face to look like her, and so he's just living out his life as her twin sister for some goddamn reason. I give it 3.5 out of 5 stars. I'm not collecting the series. I'm not reading the series. It said some interesting things, but it's like not something I'm interested in. Speaking of not something I'm interested in, The Strongest Sage with the Weakest Crest. This is a isekai kind of thing. I don't fuck with isekai. I just don't like it. I just think it's a real boring genre. I give it 3 out of 5 stars. Yeah. After that, I read a Ann Rule book. It is Without Pity, which is 12 different true crime cases. Some of them are like from her books, like they're like summarized versions of her books. But they're really interesting. I think Ann Rule, I mean, she's like the queen of true crime for like this damn reason. Like, she is a good writer. She does a really good job of explaining to you what's happening and how it happened. And these like little case file books that I've read a couple of at this point, they're really quick reads. I read this in a day. Like it was just 12 case files. Each of them was about 30, 40 pages long. There are, of course, the pictures in the middle. Yeah, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It was yeah. After that, I read some young adult. One of them I liked. I didn't like. The first one I didn't like very much. I had some problems with it. The second one I liked a little bit more. And then the third one I wrote. So the first one, I read The Weight of the Stars by Kay Ancrum. And I was not aware that this is the woman who wrote The Wicker King, which I've been very interested in. I'm a little bit backing up on the interest now, because the thing with this book here, The Weight of the Stars, this follows this ragtag found family group of this girl who, her and her little brother live alone in a trailer with her little brother's just baby that he has. And her little brother doesn't talk. I think she's like 17 or 18. Her little brother's like 15, 16. And what she does is she goes around and she like collects rejects, and they're her friends now. And then a new girl moves to town, and she ends up like getting like everybody knows, the teachers are like, hey, there's another reject for you, and she just goes. And it's the thing that what I liked about this book. Okay, I did like that all of her little rejects had stuff going on that she wasn't aware of. Because that it was more realistic that way. Like, I would have loved to learn more about people like Blake and Thomas, but we didn't get to know that because that wasn't the character's concern. Like, she'd already gone through Blake and Thomas. She'd already done that, so we as the readers didn't need to know that. There was even time, I think it was Blake who was like, we're not going through my backstory right now. And it moved on, and we never went through his backstory, which was kind of funny. I liked the writing. It was very quick, it was very readable, it was definitely very young adulty, but yeah. What I didn't like, so here's the thing. This book was published in 2019. In 2019, that's when we started seeing the first real big rush of people decrying books where characters said and did problematic things as problematic. And I feel like Ancrum really saw this happening, and this might have even happened to Ancrum. This might have happened to her because of The Wicker King, and was like, I'm gonna make the most goddamn politically correct group of delinquents that I can. It was a little much. It was a little preachy. I know this is a young adult novel, but we don't need to be preached to, or kids don't need to be preached to. I don't know. There are so many better young adult novels out here. I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. I'm still vaguely interested in The Wicker King, but yeah. All right. On the complete opposite end, this is one that maybe should have been toned down a little, but I liked it. That is We Contain Multitudes by Sarah Henstra. And this book is, stay with me, it's an epistolary novel. It follows these 2 boys who they get paired together for a letter writing project. They have to write letters to each other, and we kind of learn about their lives and everything through those letters. One of them is Adam Kurlansky, who is, his name Kurlansky. Is it Kurlansky or Kurlansky? Because they call him Kurl. Is Kurlansky. Adam Kurlansky, who used to be on the football team, but he's not anymore, and he's kind of seen as like a big kind of scary guy. He mostly just wants to kind of get through life and take care of himself. Other boy is Jonathan Hopkins. They call him Joe. Jonathan Hopkirk, not Hopkins. They call him Joe, and he is openly gay, and he gets bullied pretty harshly constantly, and so they end up corresponding, and of course they end up falling in love and everything. The thing with this book is that these, like, there's a lot of sex in this book. There's a lot, and there's a lot of, you know, slurs thrown around, and there's a couple of scenes that are really technically they're pretty much rape. This book felt a lot more real and a lot more raw than The Weight of the Stars did. I know there's a problem, you know. People do bring up a lot that a lot of these books that do seem kind of fetishizing are written by straight women. I don't know if Sarah Hinch is a straight woman. I do know she's a woman. This was a good book. A lot of the 1 and 2 star reviews that are on Goodreads are reviews that are not looking past the stuff that I just mentioned, and that's okay. You know, people can feel however way that they want about a book. However, this is a good book. It's a well-written book. The characters was the whole abuse side plot kind of stereotypical? Yeah, it was. It totally was. This is not the most sketchy book I'm going to talk about in this wrap up. That's saving that for my last book of the year. I gave this 4.5 out of 5 stars. I did think it was a good one. All right. After I read my own book, because I wanted to. After I finished We Contain Multitudes, I was just like, I'm going to read whatever the fuck I want for the rest of the year. That was yesterday. I read 4 books yesterday. I read Until I Fall Away by me, Aurora Dimitri. This is the 5th book in the Otts Boys series. This is to the point where technically you don't need to read any of these books in order, but you will spoil books 1 through 4 if you read them, if you read this one first. But this follows Matt, and if you read the first 4 Otts Boys books, you know that Matt Klein is pretty much the villain for all of them, except for the horror at Camp Newwoods. And the only reason he wasn't the villain in the horror at Camp Newwoods is because there was a guy literally killing people there. Matt has been in previous books. He's this big hulking guy. He's on the hockey team, and he pretty much he's a bully. He's a bully. He's kicking around on everybody. This follows him after the events of book 4, and book 4 ended on a bang. And how he's kind of realizing that he doesn't really have any options anymore. Like, he is stuck. He's not going to college, he doesn't have a job, his dad's kicking him out, like, he's got nothing going on. So he just kind of starts walking. And it's about him accepting himself, trying to say sorry to all the people he should say sorry to, and all that sort of stuff. Every time I write and publish a new Otts Boys book, it becomes my new favorite one. So right now, this is my new favorite Otts Boys book. The one thing I hate about this is that I reread it and I was feeling like, oh yeah, I don't have that many typos because I'm a self-published author. There are some typos, it happens, but this one was looking pretty clean. I'm like, awesome. And then I accidentally said that Matt got a CD from Vic, and he didn't get a CD from Vic, he got it from Quinn. I'm so mad about that. God. 5 out of 5 stars. This is my own book. I can do what I want. All right, after that, I read the 14th volume in my favorite manga series. That's Monthly Girls Nozaki-kun. By Izumi Tsubaki. This is the funniest goddamn manga series you will ever read. It is so funny. It got 1 season of an anime. I wish I got more. I actually just recently rewatched the anime, and at the end, Mayu's there. Like, Nozaki's little brother is at the end, randomly. Like, you just see a glimpse of him, and I'm like, oh my god. Like, he's not in the show at all, other than that. So if you hadn't read the manga, you wouldn't realize it. But this follows this girl right here, Chiyo Sakura, and she is in love with this tall, handsome, dark-haired man, Umitaro Nozaki. And one day she decides she's going to do it. She is going to confess her love to him. But instead of saying, I have a crush on you, or I'm in love with you, or anything like that, she goes, I've always been your fan. Unbeknownst to her, Nozaki is a manga artist. And so he thinks that's what she's saying. He's not exactly quiet about it, it's just that nobody believes him. So he gives her a signature, and she starts helping him with his manga. And we're at the point here where some of these couples are like starting to get really close to coming together, like Kashima and Hori, and pretty much Yuzuki and Wakamatsu are pretty much together at this point. And it's just like Sakura and Nozaki is just like, oh, they're so close. This is such a funny series. It's a very cute romance. I love it so much. It's my favorite series. I know that there's number 15. I can't wait for it to come out. 5 out of 5 stars. It's so good. So good. And after that, the sketchiest book I read this week. The last book I read of the year. I just don't even really want to show the cover. That's Cast Heaven Volume 3. So Cast Heaven is a BL series about this high school where they play the cast game. So everybody in the class goes around and finds a card, and the higher your card number, the more power you have. And if you're the lowest, if you're the target, anybody can do pretty much anything they want to. And it goes it has a mature rating, so it goes about exactly as you would think. I'm gonna say I number 1 was intriguing. I hated volume 2. This one brought it back a little bit. The one thing about this series, if we ignore all the massive glaring problems with it, is that I can't tell who is who. I can tell. Let me see if I can find an appropriate picture of the main character. The guy who was kind of set up as the main character in the first book, and I liked him. just because he was such a bitch. I like that. He was just so mad all the time. Here he is. This guy, he's the only one I can reliably recognize. Everybody else, I don't know. Because they all kind of look like each other and they rarely say each other's names. So that was my big problem. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I'm continuing on with the series. Currently, I decided after Fierce Cast 7, I was like, I just want to find the trashiest book in the book wall and finish out the year with that. I'm not going to finish it before the year's over, I'm sure. I'm going to look at my first book of 2024. And that's Bully King by Andy Jackson. It's self-published. What does it say in the front? Self-published and MM Bully romance. So there's that. These are the books I read this past week and the last 13 books of 2023 for me. That is it. That's it. That's all I have for today. I'll talk to you later and goodbye.